Okay, today we're going to be going through the Unit 4B review. So again, I'm going to be doing all the B's. The A's were something your teacher should have gone over in class. So this first one, it gives us this table, and it wants us to write an equation that represents the best fit line for the data in the table. So this is where we're going to use our calculator. So this is the linear regression. So your first step, you go to New Document. If it asks if you want to save the old one, say no. Then we go to Add Lists and Spreadsheets. Your first step is to always put an X in the A box and a Y in the B box. And then we just go ahead and type in the data that they give us. So we have 85. Ignore my dog that's barking. 75. 92. 100. 89. And 96. And then we go and fill in our Y values. So that would be 22, 8, 36, 42, 24, and 40. So once you have that, just find a blank white square. So I'm going to pick this one. Make sure you don't have this gray area highlighted or else it will not work. So once you have a white square highlighted, you're going to hit Menu, then 4 for Statistics, 1 for Stat Calculations, 3 for Linear Regression. It should bring up this screen. So once you do that, you put X in X list, Y in Y list, and then you can go ahead and just hit OK. And it should bring up all of this information here. So the first thing it tells us is it wants us to write an equation that represents the best fit line for the data in the table. So this is where we're going to have y equals mx plus b as our base equation. And notice it gives us m and it gives us b. So I will just write y equals, right here it shows us that our m is 1.448. So you need 3 decimal places. So 1.448. Then we put x, and our b value is negative 100.93. So I put minus 100.93. And that will be our equation for the line of best fit. Now notice down here, it wants the correlation coefficient. So that is our R value. So we have to go scroll down so we see R. So our correlation coefficient is R. So our correlation coefficient in this case is 0.978. So again with the 3 decimal places. And since this one is positive, not negative, we just write it is a positive correlation. Now up here, it wants us to find the line of best fit. We're going to use it to predict the number of snow cones sold if it was 110 degrees. So this is where we're going to hit Control Doc so we can add a new page. We're going to add a calculator. And we're going to put F1, so it should make it bold. Then in parentheses, we put whatever it's looking for. So here it says 110 degrees, so I put 110, close parentheses. Once you have that, press enter, and this is our answer. So this predicted that when it's 110 degrees, they will sell 58.35 snow cones. And of course, you can't sell a third of a snow cone. So this is basically 58. So that will be 1B. All right, now let's go down to the next one. So 2B, it wants to know which inequality or write an inequality that represents the graph. So for now, we're done with the calculator. Don't need that. So we're going to go 2B. So the first thing we need to write with an inequality, we need to figure out what the equation of the line is. So on this one, we know we have an intercept right here. And that intercept is 4. So we know our B is 4. And then for our M, we have to find another point. So this looks like another one. So I go down 1, 2, 3, 4. Right 1, 2, 3. So down 4 would be -4. Right 3 would be +3. So we know our slope is -4/3. So we have -4/3 x plus 4. Now we just have to figure out our inequality. So we know that this is shaded above the line. So if it's above the line, it's going to be y is greater than. And since this is a solid line, we have to have greater than or equal to. Now our next part says which points are solutions, circle all that apply. So we have 3, 0. So that would be right here. Notice that is on a solid line. Anytime you are on a solid line, that is a solution. So 3, 0 would be a solution. 1, 6 would be right here. That one is in the shaded area, so that one would be a solution. -4, 2. That is not in the shaded area, so it's not a solution. 3, 5. That one is in the shaded area, so it would be a solution. So those 3 points are the solutions to this inequality. Okay, 3B says write the equation of the line with a slope of 3 and a y-intercept of -4. So a slope of 3, that means our M is 3. And a y-intercept of -4 means B equals -4. So our equation, we use y equals mx plus b. I just replace my m and my b with these two numbers, so I get y equals 3x minus 4. And that's all you have to do. For B says, does the following situation represent causation? So causation, remember, is when something is definitely related. One thing absolutely causes the other. So if we look at this one, it says when the temperature decreases, more people will pass their Algebra 1 test. So if the temperature decreases, that doesn't necessarily mean that more people are going to pass their Algebra 1 test. There may be some kind of correlation with it, but one thing definitely does not automatically cause the other. So we're going to say no. This situation does not represent causation. It is association. So association is when two things do not have to be connected to each other. (5b) says graph the inequality. 6x minus 2y is less than 8. So I'm going to do this one two different ways. The first way I'm going to do it is by solving for y. So if I have 6x plus 2y is less than 8, to solve for y, the first thing I have to get rid of is the 6x. So minus 6x on both sides. And I get 2y is less than negative 6x plus 8. Then to get rid of this 2 next to the y, I have to divide everything by a 2. So I get y is less than negative 3x plus 4. Now we just have to graph this line. So our intercept is a 4. So I go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's a bad point. And then my slope is negative 3. So I go down 3, right 1. And notice this one is y is less than, which means it is a dotted line. So we just connect those points with a dotted line. And its y is less than, so we shade below the line. Now that's the first way to do it. Another way we can do it is if we use our intercepts. So we're going to find our two intercepts. We're going to start with the x-intercept. To find our x-intercept, we plug in a 0 for y. So I have 6x plus 2 times 0 is less than 8. So anything times 0 is just 0, so you can cross that out. And I get 6x is less than 8. So I would have x is 8 over 6 would simplify to, if we divide both of those by 2, we get 4 over 3. So that means our x-intercept would be at 4/3, which is in between 1 and 2. So we're just going to estimate that it's about right here. Now our y-intercept, we plug in a 0 for x. So I have 6 times 0 plus 2y is less than 8. 6 times 0 cancels out. So I get 2y is less than 8. If I divide both those by 2, I get y is less than 4. So our y-intercept is going to be a positive 4. Now if we look at our original, we have less than, not less than or equal to. So it's going to be a dotted line. And to figure out which side we shade, we're going to use the test point 0, 0. So this point right here. So if I plug in 0, 0, I get 6 times 0 plus 2 times 0 is less than 8. Both of these just become a 0, so we get 0 is less than 8. Since this is a true statement, we have to shade the side that includes our test point, which was 0, 0. So I would shade this side. And notice this is the same thing as when we solved for y. If it gave you a false statement here, you would shade the side that does not include your test point. So pick either way. You can either solve for y or use your intercepts. All right, 6b. Write an equation of the line perpendicular to y equals negative 1/5 x minus 4 through the point negative 2, negative 4. So I know some teachers, I think Miss Heckler, I'm not sure about the others, do point slope form. But the way that I do it, I usually do slope intercept form. Whichever way you like better, you can do. I will show both. So it says write an equation of the line perpendicular to y equals negative 1/5 x minus 4 through this point. So I'm going to start with slope intercept, which means that negative 1/5, we want it to be perpendicular. So perpendicular slopes, remember we had to flip our sign. So we'd have y equals, instead of a negative, it would be a positive. Then we flip our fraction. So instead of 1 over 5, it would be 5 over 1. X. And then we don't know what our intercept is. So I'm going to put plus b. Now we're going to use our point. So this is our x. That's our y. And I'm going to plug in x and y so I can solve for b. So y is negative 4. Our slope was a 5. X is negative 2 plus b. So I have negative 4 equals 5 times negative 2 is negative 10 plus b. Negative 10 we need to get rid of, move to the other side. Ignore my dog. Add 10 to both sides. So negative 4 plus 10 would give us a positive 6. So 6 equals b. And that means our equation is y equals 5x plus 6. Now the point slope way is basically the same thing. You just get your intercept in a different way. So remember, point slope was y minus y2 equals m times x minus, that should be y1, not y2. Oh. Don't know what's going on there. Hold on just a second. Wait, pull back up. Technical difficulties. Okay, so let's go back to point slope form. So again, point slope was, what is going on? Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So like before, we know that our slope was a 5. And we have our x and our y, so my x1 and y1. So I have y minus negative 4 equals 5 times x minus negative 2. So this becomes y plus 4 equals 5 times x plus 2. Then we have to distribute, so distribute the 5. And I get y plus 4 equals 5x plus 10. Then subtract 4 from both sides, and we get y equals 5x plus 6. So either way you do it, you get the same answer. All right, 7b. Write the slope of an equation that is perpendicular to y equals 7x plus 4. So the slope they give us is 7, and they want something perpendicular to it. So this would be m equals, this is a 7, a positive 7, which means our perpendicular slope has to be negative. And then 7 is really 7 over 1. So when we flip that, we get 1 over 7. So negative 1 over 7 would be our slope. Now it wants us to write an equation of the line that is perpendicular to the y-axis and passes through 5, 9. So to be perpendicular to the y-axis, so let's just go ahead and draw a coordinate plane. So this one right here is our y-axis. And it wants something perpendicular to the y-axis. Well, if you notice, everything facing that it's a horizontal line would be perpendicular to it. So we basically need an equation that is a horizontal line. And what we've learned before is any horizontal line is y equals some number because the slope is 0. So we know it has to be y equals some number. And if we look here, it tells us it has to be through the point 5, 9, which means our y value has to be 9. So y equals 9 would be our equation. All right, next one. 9a says write an equation of the line parallel to y plus 1 times 5/3 x minus 2 through the points 5, negative 11. So all we need from this equation is the slope. So our slope here is 5 over 3. And if it's parallel slopes are the same. So we need our slope to be 5 over 3. So I'm going to have y equals 5 over 3. Oh, getting ahead of myself. X. And then I don't know what b is. So this is going to be the slope-intercept way. Then I just plug in my points. So my y is negative 11. Then I have 5/3 times 5 plus b. Now I need to multiply 5/3 times 5. So I can use my calculator. So if I do 5/3 times 5, I get 25 over 3. So in this case, as you can see, our slope is an ugly answer if you do it the slope-intercept way. So instead of doing it this way, we're going to do the point-slope form. So slope-intercept way is not always the best way to do it. So I have y minus, my y1 is negative 11. So minus negative 11 equals 5/3 times x minus 5. And I just realized any way you do this problem is going to be really ugly, so it doesn't matter. We're just going to have to deal with the fractions. So y minus negative 11, that becomes y plus 11. And that's going to equal 5/3 x, because when you multiply 5/3 times x, you get 5/3 x. And 5/3 times negative 5 is what we got before, which would be negative 25 over 3. So really, you could do it this way. It's going to be a nasty answer no matter what. Then we subtract 11 from both sides. So I have y equals 5/3 x. Then we need to figure out what negative 25 over 3 minus 11 is. So I'm definitely going to use the calculator for that. So I have negative 25 over 3 minus 11. So we get negative 58 over 3. And that will be our answer. If you did it this way, so let me just finish this way out, even though I said we can't do it that way, we can. So I have negative 11 is my y, 5 over 3 times 5 plus b. So negative 11 equals 25 over 3 plus b. Then I subtract 25 over 3 from both sides, and we get the same answer. So in this case, our b would still be negative 58 over 3. All right. So next, and is this the last one, I think? Last one, it wants us to write an equation that has a reasonable fit to model the data above. So again, this is a regression problem, so we're going to be using our calculator again. So let's start over. Go to your home page, hit New Document. Don't save the old one. Add lists and spreadsheets. Where A is, put X. Where B is, put Y. Then we're going to type in everything. So I have 1971, 1976, 1980, 1984, 1989, 1993, 1997, and 2000. Then we fill in our y's. So in 1971, it was 42.4. Then 37.4. $37.1, $34.1, $32.1, $28.8, $25.7, and last 25.5. So make sure you type all those in perfectly. Then find a white box. Make sure it's highlighted blue on your calculator. Then we hit Menu, 4 for statistics, 1 for stat calculations, 3 for linear regression. I have X for X list, Y for Y list, hit OK. And again, we need our M and our B. So I have Y equals, my M here is negative 0.580, so negative 0.580 X. Then my B is 1185.09, so plus 1185.09. Now I know this question doesn't ask for a correlation coefficient, but if it did, we would just go down to find R. Make sure you're using R, not R squared. So our R in this case, or correlation coefficient, would be negative 0.990. And that is the whole review, or at least the B's. So if you need any help, your teachers are available. And yeah.